everybody. It is Saturday night. It's actually October 1st and it is time to slow down. I have been feeling super overwhelmed these last couple of weeks. We're back to school. We got COVID, the gardens, finishing up. We took the turkeys to the butcher. Just a lot going on. But I always love this time of year. Fall is one of my favorite seasons, fall and winter. But 1 month from today is my mom's birthday. So you probably won't be seeing this until then. And in the summer, we went to the wool festival that was here in the Kawartha Lakes. And I bought this amazing wool and pattern, and it's called Songbird Yarn and Fibers, and this is the woolly wormhead hat kit. And I think I'm going to knit the one on the right, so the Rhinebeck hat. I'm not sure. I'm going to check out the patterns on Ravelry, which if you're a knitter, and even if you're not a knitter but you're interested in looking at patterns, Ravelry is an amazing website to look at all things knitting. And I'm pretty sure crocheting as well. But anyways, my mom and dad love Newfoundland. And so there was the woman that makes these hat patterns and dyes these yarns. She makes like bird themed ones. And so I purchased the Atlantic puffin because my mom loves puffins. And so I'm going to try to knit this hat. So I just have to go on Ravelry right now and pick out which one I'm going to knit. So I have 1 month, which I should be able to do, to knit this hat.
I'm always heading your way.
Good morning, everyone. There really is nothing like coffee on a weekend. Literally. It's what you live for. Anyways, it is a beautiful, kind of chilly fall morning, so I've started a fire, me and my coffee, and I wanted to just bring you along for my morning routine because I don't think I have ever done this, and it's like pretty regular, like almost every day. It's changed a little bit since I started making YouTube videos, of course, because this is oftentimes when I do my editing on weekend mornings, and even sometimes on weekday mornings, but typically not. So normally now I will edit all my videos on weekend mornings, as many as I can, because I don't have time for that in the week. And on weekday mornings, I will knit. And I knit while I drink my coffee. And last year, during COVID, I discovered audiobooks. Oh boy, game changer. Although it's very costly because I buy all my books. Recently, one of my students told me you could get audiobooks at the library for free, except that you have to line up, which I don't love. So that is awesome. I might do that one day. But even more recently, thanks to peer pressure, good peer pressure from Nicole and Juliet, thank you so much. I actually started listening to podcasts, and one of my friends just started her own podcast called Tangled Trees, and it's fantastic. So if you like trees, or even if you don't like trees, she might convince you to like trees listening to her podcast. So that is called Tangled Trees, and I'll link it below. But I listen to something, audiobook or podcast, while I knit and drink my coffee. And it is a great way for me to start the day. It's relaxing. It takes my mind off any stresses that I might have, except that this pattern that I'm knitting is stressful. It's hard. I turned on an extra light, so that's what the shadowing is, just so you could see me a little better because it's pretty dark in here in the morning. So I wanted to give you an update on this pattern. It is definitely the hardest pattern I've ever knit. It required some serious brain time, which is good for me. So it was a little frustrating to start, but once I got the hang of it, it is pretty easy. You just have to count. So every row is counting because it's German short rows. So very needy in the morning. Excuse me. Sometimes we have these days where we just am needy. Yeah, you're very needy sometimes in the mornings. You're a very needy lady. I don't want you to lick my face. Okay, so this pattern is called the Rhinebeck hat, and the wool actually, oh no, we're gonna have a war. Stay tuned, I'm not gonna talk to you. Of course, when I'm trying to make a video. I'm just gonna pause this for a station break while these two get their beans out. Okay, so the hat pattern is called the Rhinebeck hat. That's what it looks like. And it is using German short rows, which is basically knitting along a row, turning your work, knitting along a row, turning your work. But because you have to turn so often, you have to count. So I can listen to a podcast, but if you disturb me in my counting, it can be really tricky. So anyways, it requires some concentration, which is good. The yarn, this woman makes these beautiful yarns and she names them all after birds. And so I selected the yarn because of the bird, not so much because of the colors, although I really like them. And I selected puffin because my mom and dad went to Newfoundland a lot and my mom loves puffins. And so I picked this yarn, and you can see it's got a lot of oranges, yellows, a little bit of red and dark bluish black. And so it is the color of a puffin. And it's beautiful. Like, look at that pattern. It's amazing. They look just like rows of teardrops or something. I don't know. Yeah. And so it's knit kind of in sections and then you join it at the end. Which is kind of interesting. So I would say I'm about halfway done. I think I need 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I only have to do a couple more and it might be ready to wear. So I have to do 10 or 12 sections, but so far it's going well. Some of the pattern is so small, I have to use my little hand lens to read the pattern. So when you study insects or when you like to study little things, this is really handy for that, but it's also really handy to read knitting patterns. Hey, good morning, everybody. As you can see, I finished my mom's hat for her birthday. I don't think she'll mind that I have it on because it is for my mom, but I just wanted to show you the finished product and talk a little bit about this knitting project and give you an option. This is the first time I've kind of asked for comments, and I know not a ton of people watch these videos, but if you're an aspiring knitter out there or you are a knitter and you want to take on a new project, a trickier one, I would say as far as difficulty goes, on my scale, this one was a 7 out of 10. It bent my brain quite a bit. There were a couple of new things that I had to try, or that I tried and was successful, but it just took a little bit. There was a learning curve. And so when I first started knitting the hat, I was stumped, and so I was looking for YouTube videos to help me through, and I couldn't find any. Maybe I was searching the wrong thing. I actually looked up the originator of the pattern or the creator of the pattern to see if there was any kind of YouTube tutorial, and I couldn't find one. So let me talk to you first about the hat and then kind of what I'm thinking. So I really enjoyed knitting this pattern, but it does require a lot of focus. So you do have to count on every single row. And it does work short rows, which means, and I probably explained it, but you work one way in a direction, you turn the work, you work another way in the direction. And that's what creates these kind of cool little cool pattern, and you have a dominant color and a secondary color, and the secondary color is what creates these orange lines, and the dominant color is the color work in the hat. This is actually a slouch hat, which I don't think my mom is going to love. However, you can, or what I would do is just use it, like roll it up, so you can also wear it like a regular toque. So that's pretty cool. And it's knit in one straight piece, as you saw, and then it's actually connected with a stitch that I use a lot in closing the toe on my socks called Kitchener stitch, which is tricky, but there are a lot of really great tutorials on YouTube. That's how I learned. I use the Pearl Soho video, which I will link below in the description box. But this also uses a provisional cast on method, which is a method where you actually knit or you use a crochet hook and then knit into those stitches, and that allows you then to pull the crocheted stitches off to connect your work using the Kitchener stitch. So that was something I had never done before. It was actually pretty straightforward. So I think my first piece of advice when knitting anything new that has new stuff is to A, use YouTube to help you, but B, just try it. I mean, you can always take your work out. That's one thing about knitting. You have to be okay with making mistakes and then correcting those mistakes as you go. So pulling your work out, and a lot of learning comes from that. And I just recently at work, I saw they had printed something off in kind of the mental health region, and it was something along the lines of forget the mistake but remember the lesson. And it's so true in knitting. Just water off a duck's back about the mistake, but figure out kind of how to read the work and where you made your mistake. So that was one of the tricky parts. The other one was just following the pattern, literally learning the pattern. So there was a lot of trial and error for me there as well. And so I would say to any of you thinking about trying the Rhinebeck hat pattern, it's amazing. So I did run out of yarn for the pattern. So that was a challenge. So I've got these two parts here where I had to just use the B color, which is fine because you just put it on the back of your head and nobody will ever notice. But it's the seam is seamless. You can't tell where I did the Kitchener stitch to join the work together. It's actually right, where is it? God, I can't even find it. Somewhere here. So it worked really well, and you actually wouldn't be able to find it at all if I didn't have that solid orange there. But anyways, I highly recommend the Rhinebeck pattern. You can find it at Ravelry.com. I'll link that below as well. I don't know actually how much the pattern costs. Probably they're usually anywhere between $5 and $10 for the pattern if you want to purchase it. But I actually got mine when I bought this yarn, and I'm also going to put right here what the name of this yarn is called, because it's actually beautiful yarn, really great to work with for these hats. So anyways, I really like these colors, and I would totally keep this hat for myself if I hadn't knit it for my mom for her birthday and it wasn't so meaningful about puffins in Newfoundland. But I did buy more yarn. I actually bought a yarn called Oriole, so it's very similar to these colors, so I might knit that one for myself. But if you would like me to make a video on, and I might just do it anyways, on knitting this hat and some of the tricks, obviously I'm not going to take you along the entire time I knit, but it's just how to read the pattern, because it is a little bit tricky. I would be happy to do that and post it. And I think Woolly Wormhead, I think is the name of the woman, would be okay with that. Anyways, so think about it. Hope you consider starting knitting or picking up a new project or pattern. I highly recommend the Rhinebeck hat. I think it's pretty cool. When I make one for myself, I might actually line it with some fleece just to make it extra warm. I like a tight headband with 0 air pockets around my ears, so I might do that. But hope you all have a really great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to give you the spin just so you can see it. I like it.